Hello everyone, welcome to Desensitizing Your Horse Part 2. So in this one I am going to be using a type of whip. I call it a handy stick, but other people have different names for it. There are also different types. This one happens to be a longer one for sure. So it's a little more difficult to use if you haven't done this before, but the smaller ones are just as good. And you are going to do the same thing as with your lead rope, where you stand parallel next to them with your hand around their shoulder or on their shoulder. I like to pet him while I'm doing this. And you're just gonna toss that handy stick over his body, under his tummy. You're gonna rub his legs. And then with the handy stick, I also like to smack the ground next to him to make him just calm and still, and just let him know that I'm not asking him to do anything. Just want him to be calm and relaxed. So I'm going to praise him now because he did stand still while I smacked the ground and tossed it over him 10 to 15 times. And what you do to one side of the horse, you always do to the other. So I am going to readjust him so you guys can see from a different angle. And then I kind of speed it up right here because I do the same exact thing on this side. Stand parallel, not facing him, and rub his belly, toss it over his back, make sure it hits every part of him. And then in just a second I slow it down so you guys can see me smacking the ground next to him again. It's just a nice smooth motion. And I smack the ground far away from him and close to him, and I do it about 10 to 15 times. And if he doesn't move, then we move to the next thing. But there's also a bunch of dead leaves on the ground, so I'm trying to make a lot of noise around him, and he's not moving at all, so we're going to go ahead and praise him and move on. This next part of the video is going to be a lot of walking around his body, smacking the whip on the ground next to him. So I do try to adjust him a lot so that you guys can see it better. But we are going to start the same way we always do it when we desensitize, right next to his body. And I'm just going to start smacking the ground next to his shoulder and then move back toward his butt. So as you can see, he was like, "Whoa, what are you doing?" I'm just going to follow him and keep smacking it like nothing even happened. So I do have my hand on his body the whole time I'm next to him while I'm doing this, just so he knows I'm not meaning any harm. And also right here, I do stop and readjust him, which is something I usually don't do. I usually just keep following him. But for the sake of this video and you guys, I tried to move him a little bit. So once again, I'm continuing to smack the whip by him, and I'm just moving along his body, not even paying attention to him and the way he's acting until he moves away from me a little too much. So when your horse is moving away from you in a way that they don't stop and it seems a little disrespectful, you want to go ahead and push them into round pinning. So as you can see, I have his lead rope on, and I'm just going to make him trot around the round pin a few times just to let him know, like, okay, if you want to move away from me, you can go ahead and move away from me, but you're going to have to work a little bit. And I'm not making him canter or run around or anything crazy. Just wanted him to trot a couple laps to get his mind reset. Tried to stop him right in front of the camera, which almost worked, but not quite. So we're just going to get him to stand still again. I'm going to praise him and just kind of pretend that none of that happened and move on. I readjusted him so that you guys can see well, and we're going to start over. So once again, I am parallel with his shoulder, and I am moving down his body with my hand on his body. As you can see, he's moving a lot less this time. So I'm just going to kind of stand there until I feel like he's relaxed. And once I do, I'm going to try to walk behind him all the way, which is not something I could do when we first got this horse, let me tell you. He has definitely gotten a lot better with this same technique consistently used. So I'm going to tell him he's a good boy, and then I'm going to try to smack the ground and walk behind him now. This first time that I finally get around him, he does kind of move a little bit, which the goal is to have him stand completely still. So I'm just going to kind of keep smacking that, switch it around, pretend that didn't even happen because it wasn't that big of a step. And we're going to do it again from this side. So I'm going to have my hand along his butt, and we are going to go ahead and walk behind him. He moves again a little bit on this side. So I am going to repeat the whole process again. I do still praise him and tell him he's a good boy though. Always got to show my ponies some love. I also like to do this thing where I stand right in front of them and smack the ground on both sides. He's always really good at that, so we'll move on pretty quickly, and we're going to do the same thing we did before. I'm gonna have my hand on his body, smack the ground consistently, go behind his butt, which he stood completely still, and I had to give him lots of love. I was very proud of him. We're gonna do the exact same thing on the other side. Hand on his body, constantly smacking the ground. I never stop. Go behind his butt, and he doesn't move again. Because he stood still, we're just gonna give him lots of praise and end the video there. Thank you guys for watching, and tune in for more.